The throne hall of Château de Ben hung in orbit like a wound in the sky. Outside, a dead star burned black, its event horizon halo casting a faint red crown over the vampiric citadel. Stained crystal windows formed arches of obsidian and ruby, and rivers of captured starlight flowed through conduits in the floor like veins of liquid fire. On the throne of onyx sat Roi Lucien IV de Noirecour, king of the Cour de la Nuit, ruler of the vampiric star kingdom. Around him, nobles in crimson cloaks murmured like a restless sea. At the foot of the stairs stood his daughter. Princesse Élodie Noirelune did not kneel. Her eyes were the color of dried blood, inscrutable and calm. Armor of dark silver clung to her like a second skin, etched with old sigils of the bloodhouses. A thin line of black war paint cut from her lower lip to her chin, as tradition demanded of a commander who had tasted battle. Above them all, the hollow map shimmered in the air, a crimson sphere marking the territory of the Cour de la Nuit, and, pressing against its borders, a blaze of burning gold. The Luminari Concordat. 3 more border outposts glassed, intoned Maréchal Sébastien Delacroix, his voice echoing in the vaulted chamber. Their sun lances slice through our hulls as if they were parchment. Their doctrine is purification. Their mercy is extinction. A hiss passed through the gathered vampires, the old reflex of predators smelling fire. Lucien's fangs glinted. Enough poetry, Sébastien. Speak plainly. Can our fleets break theirs? Sébastien hesitated. That hesitation was all the answer anyone needed. They have taken the light and weaponized it, Father, Élodie said, her tone even. They worship stars as gods and see us as blasphemy. We rule the dark between suns, but they are bringing the dawn with cannons. We cannot meet them on their terms. Then we make them bend to ours, growled Duc Armand de Valcroix, his cloak stitched with trophies of bone. No parley, no treaty. We drag their ships into the shadow of Malvale and crack them open like eggs. We feed until their light goes out. A ripple of hunger stirred the hall at his words. Old instincts, older sins. Élodie's gaze flicked to Armand, cold as a void tide. We have not fed on the unwilling in 2 centuries, Duc. The Pacte de Minuit holds, even in war. Or have you forgotten which king signed it? Armand sneered, but Lucien raised a hand. Silence fell like a curtain. The princess is correct, the king said. The pact stands. We feed on volunteers, on the condemned, on synthesized vitae, not on those who simply stand in our way. Distantly, thunder rumbled through the hull as the dead star snarled. The old castle shuddered, chains creaking. However, Lucien continued, his gaze returning to the golden blaze on the hollow map, the Luminari have made a simple fact clear. They will not coexist. They will scour us from the dark. They are zealots of the flame. He leaned forward, and zealots do not stop until someone makes them. A chime rang through the chamber. A servitor drone drifted in, its red lenses flashing. Majesty, it announced in a metallic whisper, a transmission from the Luminari Concordat, full spectrum, open channel. The nobles stirred. Armand's hand slid toward the hilt of his blade, though there was nothing to strike but ghosts. Lucien smiled, showing the faint edge of his fangs. Project it. Light erupted in the center of the hall. Not the dim crimson of vampire engines, but searing white gold like a fragment of sunrise torn from a living star. Within that radiance, a shape formed, a figure of living light, tall and robed in bands of luminous geometry, as if someone had wrapped a sun in ceremonial lines. I am Arion, voix de la première radiance, the apparition spoke. Its voice was layered, like many mouths speaking in perfect unison. By decree of the Concordat, I address the court of the dead star. Dead star, Armand muttered, always with the insults. Élodie said nothing. She watched. You stand before Roi Lucien IV, sovereign of the Cour de la Nuit, the king replied. Choose your words carefully, Lumen. Our patience is thinner than our blood. The situation is simple. Arion said, you are an affront to the light, parasites on the living cosmos. The Accord of Suns demands your dissolution. In other words, Élodie said quietly, you have come to declare a holy war. Arion regarded her. The light at the center of its face brightened. You must be the princess, it said. The one they call the épine noire, the black thorn, the first of your line to refuse the ancient feasts. A curiosity. I am Élodie Noirelune, she said. Princess of the Bloodhouses, commander of the Shadow Fleet. You will address me as Highness, or not at all. Arion inclined a radiant head. Very well, Highness. Our scouts report your resistance along the border, your attempts at defense, admirable, futile. The Concordat has drawn lots of your fate. You are to be cleansed. Sebastian snarled. Come try it. Lucien's fingers flexed on the throne's armrests. You did not open a channel to restate what your canons already say. What do you want, voice of radiance? We are not monsters, King of Ash, Ariane said. We are bound by ancient doctrines of fairness. Where two powers clash and millions might die, we offer a trial. A trial, Élodie repeated. Combat singulier, Ariane clarified. Single combat. Our champion against yours, in neutral orbit over the ruined moon of Cendrillys, witnessed by both fleets. If your champion wins, the Concordat withdraws and recognizes your right to exist in your shadowed territories. If ours wins, you will submit to purification, your weapons disarmed, your people dispersed and rehabilitated. Rehabilitated, Armand hissed, caged, dissected. Burned, murmured one of the lesser counts. Lucien's gaze sharpened. And if we refuse this pretty little game? Then we burn you root and branch, Ariane said without a flicker of emotion. We have the numbers, the light, the will. You have hunger and pride. Accept the test, Roi Lucien. Or make this a simple extermination. The hall seethed, nobles bared fangs, shadows writhed like serpents along the vaulted ceiling. Élodie's voice cut through the chaos. I will fight. Every head turned. Lucien sat very still. Élodie? Father, she said, they want a duel that will decide the fate of our people. We cannot win a full-scale war in open light. We are creatures of the void. They're trying to compress the conflict into something they believe they control. Ariane's radiance seemed to sharpen. We control all light, Princess. Not the dark between it, she said. I accept. I will stand as champion for the Cour de la Nuit. Armand stepped forward, outraged. This is madness. A princess? We should send an executioner, not a diplomat in armor. Let me fight. Let any of the old guard fight. Old guard, Élodie said, turning toward him. Like you, Duke Armand, who still dreams of breaking the pact and feasting on terrified colonies. His eyes flashed crimson. At least I know how to kill. So do I, she said softly. I simply remember why. Lucien rose from his throne, robes of umbral velvet falling around him like a night tide. The choice of champion is mine, he said. Not yours, Armand. The princess speaks truth. This war will not be won by whoever can scream loudest and bleed the most. It will be won, if it can be won, by someone who can fight within the confines of a greater purpose. He looked down at Élodie, his expression unreadable. Élodie Noirelune, my daughter, do you understand what this means? You fight, and either you die, and we die with you, or you win, and every decision that follows rests on your shoulders. Our hunger, their zealotry, peace, or extinction postponed. I understand, she said. If I fall, at least I fall doing something other than running from dawn. Silence. Then Lucien nodded once, sharply. Very well. He turned to the light being. Ariane, voice of radiance. The Cour de la Nuit accepts trial by combat. Our champion will meet yours on Cendrillys in 3 cycles. So recorded, Ariane said. The holographic sun flickered, then dimmed. Prepare your last will, vampires. Soon, the light arrives. The projection vanished. Darkness filled the hall again. The dead star outside pulsed as if in answer. Armand rounded on Élodie. You have doomed us. Sit down, Armand, she said, or I will practice for the duel on your spine. A few of the younger nobles laughed nervously. Lucien dismissed the court with a gesture. Enough? Leave us. Maréchal Sebastian, Duke Armand, stay. Élodie, walk with me. The war tower spines of Château de Bain rose like fangs into the black star's halo. Élodie stood with her father on a narrow balcony of petrified bone, watching the void. Fleets drifted like steel coffins in formation, obsidian hulls, crimson running lines, silhouettes sharp as knives. The last time we faced a crusade, Lucien said quietly, we nearly lost the kingdom. Not to these Luminari, something worse. Beings of hollow hunger, not zeal. It took everything we had to buy time enough to change. The pact, Élodie said, our promise to live without hunting the helpless. The law you wrote with your own blood on the stones of the old throne. I carved it, he said, then spent a century killing my own nobles to make them obey it. There was no pride in his voice, only exhaustion. We choose whom to feed on now. Volunteers and villains, synth vitae. We live amid restraints. And they hate us for existing at all, Élodie murmured, eyes on the gold smear of the Luminari territory. Lucien studied her profile. The stubborn chin, the thin scar along her neck where some old battle had almost taken her head. "You are ruthless," he said. "I raised you that way. You can cut a man's heart out and never swallow a drop if the law forbids it. You can burn a world if it means 10 others live. The question is not if you can kill their champion. Then what is it? Whether you can win and still not become what they think we are." She thought of Ariane's disdain. Parasites. Abominations. "If I have to choose," she said, "between becoming what they hate and letting our people die, I will choose their hatred." Lucien's lips twitched, spoken like a true Noirecour. He put a hand on her shoulder, cold through the armor. "You will have what you need. Sebastian will show you every scrap of data we have on Luminari soldiers. Our seers will scour probability, our engineers will tune your armor to the last rivet, and—" he hesitated. "And," she prompted. He looked older than she had ever seen him. "And if you die, my daughter, I will break the pact and drown the galaxy in blood." Élodie turned to face him fully. "No?" Lucien blinked. "No? If I fall, you keep the pact," she said. "You keep everything we have built. We are not beasts anymore. We are something better. If my death turns you into the monster they preach about, then the Luminari win even if I cut their champion in half." His eyes narrowed. "You order your king now?" "I plead with my father," she said, voice low. "Let the last thing I do be useful, not a spark that burns the universe down." Lucien regarded her for a long moment. "You are very inconvenient," he said, "so I've been told." He laughed once, softly. "Fine, I will make you a counter-promise. Win, and I will name you Héritier du Voile, heir to the Crimson Veil. Lose, and I will burn no worlds. I swear it on my thirst." They clasped wrists, exchanging a pulse of cold, ancient power. The old oath magic sealed like ice. "Now go," Lucien said gruffly. "Train, study, and try not to die. It would complicate my plans." The training halls of Château de Bain were cathedrals of violence. Élodie fought the simulated Luminari soldier for the 7th time. The hard-light construct shone with blinding brilliance, wielding a spear of condensed plasma. Every strike came as a straight line, uncompromising, direct, efficient. She ducked under a searing thrust, shadow stepping 3 paces to the side in a blur of darkness. Her own blade, a slender saber of void-forged steel, sang as it cut through the training dummy's chest. The projection shattered into shards of light that faded into the floor. "Again," she said. "You have already killed that particular model 7 times," noted Capitaine Baptiste Girard, leaning against a column of fused bone. His accent was thick from the outer provinces. The runes on his armor glowed faintly. "Soon there will be nothing left to learn." "Then program something harder," she snapped. Sweat beaded at her temples. She ignored it. Baptiste threw a look to the side, where a robed figure stood in half-shadow. Marielle de Fontanges, the court seer, tilted her head. "I can oblige," she said. Her eyes were milk-white, pupils gone to mist centuries ago in the fires of prophecy. But the more accurate the simulation, the greater the cost. Élodie sheathed her blade. "What cost?" "My blood," Marielle said simply. "I will need to open myself to the Luminari data we have stolen and let it bruise my sight. And I will need yours, princess." "Take it," Élodie said immediately. "Élodie? If I am to cut their champion down in front of 2 armadas and a dozen suns," she said, "I cannot afford surprises." "Marielle, do it." The seer inclined her head. She drew a thin needle of bone from her sleeve and pricked her own palm. Silver-dark blood welled. Marielle let it drip onto the training hall floor, tracing a circle. Élodie stepped into it when instructed. The seer pricked Élodie's wrist, drawing another few drops. The floor swallowed the blood like dry lips. The lights flickered. For a moment, Élodie felt a wrench, as if her mind had been hooked and pulled sideways. Heat poured over her like wind from a furnace. She smelled ozone and sanctified incense. Then the world shattered and reformed. The training hall was gone. She stood on cracked glass, floating in a vast gulf of stars. In front of her, a radiant figure slowly took shape. A knight of light, humanoid but wrong in subtle ways. Limbs too long, angles too precise, armor made of molten gold, layered with moving glyphs of the Luminari creed. In its hands it held a sword made from concentrated dawn. "Paladin Salus of the Third Burning Choir," Marielle's voice echoed in Élodie's mind. "The Luminari champion they call Sunbreaker. He has extinguished 3 worlds. He has never fallen in combat." Élodie smiled. "Good," she said. "I'd hate to duel someone average." The first time Princess Élodie died in the simulation, it happened in 4 seconds. Salus moved like a thunderbolt. Light bled from his joints, a halo of killing dawn. He closed the distance with 2 strides, swinging that impossible blade. Élodie tried to slip beneath it, shadow step in the familiar way. The light burned her shadow away. The sword kissed her throat. Pain, then nothing. She gasped back into the training hall, hand flying to her neck. Her fingers met unbroken skin. Baptiste loomed over her, eyes wide. You were gone for 2 breaths, then you collapsed. His voice was too casual. He was rattled. Marielle looked worse. Blood trickled from one nostril. The runes tattooed along her jaw pulsed angrily. Well, Élodie rasped, sitting up. That was educational. You cannot use the old tricks on this one, Marielle whispered. His light is not just illumination. It is doctrine. It burns anything that tries to hide. Then I won't hide, Élodie said. Again. She died 31 more times. Sometimes the blade took her heart, sometimes her head. Sometimes a beam of focused day ripped through her chest when she tried to move in ways Salus had already anticipated. Each time she returned to herself, panting, shaking, blood in her mouth. Each time she learned. Salus favored his right knee when he pivoted backward. His sword strokes became minutely slower if he struck 3 times in a row without pause. When he lunged, the pattern of the glyphs along his arm flared in a specific sequence. He fights like a hymn, Élodie said on the 17th death, laughing once breathlessly. Repeating lines, choruses. If I can find where the song loops, I can break the rhythm. This is madness, Baptiste muttered. You bleed your life away in ghosts while the real champion sharpens his blade. Better to die 30 times in a dream, she said, than once in reality without knowing why. On the 32nd iteration, she lasted 3 minutes. On the 33rd, 5. On the 34th, she slipped past his guard for the first time and scored a shallow cut along his luminous side. The light there darkened just a little. Ah, she whispered, you can be hurt. Pain flared in her ribs a heartbeat later as his sword bit deep. The world went white. She woke with her head in Baptiste's lap, the captain cursing under his breath as Marielle wiped blood from Élodie's nose. Enough, the seer said hoarsely. Any more and your mind may not remember which reality it belongs to. Élodie sat up, ignoring the dizziness. I know enough. What do you know? Baptiste demanded. She looked up at the training hall ceiling, at the bones of ancient dead woven into the supports. That he is stronger than me, she said calmly. Faster. That his light burns my tricks away. That if I meet him in a field of day, he will carve me into ash. And you call this encouraging? I also know, she continued, that he believes in his doctrine as deeply as we believe in blood. He has never fought anyone who did not either fear that light or fall in love with it. She smiled slowly, something cold and sharp. I intend to disgust him. Later, in her private war chamber, Élodie studied schematics. The arena over Centralis was to be a ring station. Half of it open to the raw light of a distant blue sun, half of it shaded behind plates of super-dense black alloy. Neutral, by terms of the Concordat. Day and night. Both sides believe the field favors them, Sébastien said, leaning over the hollow with her. We strike from shadow, they from light. A balance. There is no balance between a candle and a furnace, Élodie murmured, but shade can be bent. She marked points along the arena's structure. Support struts, field projectors, heat sinks. Have we any agents near the construction? She asked. Sébastien hesitated. We cannot tamper. The Concordat will be watching every rivet. If we are caught. I am not suggesting sabotage, she said. Only information. Where do the panels shift? How quickly do the halos spin? I need timing. We have some feeds, Sébastien admitted. Marielle's spies in their databanks found records of prior trials. The panels move in patterns. Predictable. Sacred geometry. Good, Élodie said. Sacred things break the same as any others. Baptiste stepped into the chamber. You asked to see me, Highness. Yes, you will command my escort to Centralis. Once I step into that arena, you will do nothing, no matter what you see. Understood? His jaw clenched. If they cheat. They won't, she said. They don't need to. I need you out there, holding the line, not in here dying because you couldn't stay your hand. Baptiste bowed slightly, reluctantly. As you command, Princess. She turned away, fingers brushing the hilt of her saber. Alone for a moment, she let her composure crack. Fear crawled along her spine. Not of pain, not of death, but of failing with her teeth at a stranger's throat, proving every sermon the Luminari had ever preached. She thought of Lucien's promise, of Armand's hunger, of fledgling vampires on outer colonies who had never killed anyone, who existed on packaged vitae and legends of a monstrous past. This duel would decide how they were allowed to live, or if they could. "Let him call me monster," she whispered to the silent room. "Let him believe it until his last breath. But let the galaxy see that I am something else." Her reflection in the bone glass did not answer. Centralis hung in space like a shattered pearl. The moon's surface was cracked and half-melted, scars from some ancient cataclysm. Around it, the Concordat had built a gleaming ring. The Sanctuaire du Jugement. From Élodie's shuttle, it looked disturbingly like a halo. The shadow fleet formed in a defensive crescent behind her. Jagged silhouettes of vampire warships loomed in the dark. Croiseur de Nuit, Frégate Sanguine, the great dreadnought Reine Rouge with its carved hull and cathedral spires. Opposite them, the Luminari Concordat hung like a small sun. Their ships were shards of crystal and light, edges glowing white gold. Columns of radiance bled from their drives, painting the void in luminous scars. Between the two armadas, the ring of Centralis rotated slowly. Half of it blazed in full exposure to the blue star's wrath. The other half lurked beneath overlapping plates of dark alloy, a manufactured eclipse. The dual field lay directly on the terminator line. "Majesty Princes, this is Luminari control." A neutral voice crackled over the wide band. "Per terms of the accord, opposing fleets will maintain distance. Any trespass into the sanctified zone will result in immediate nullification of the trial." Baptiste muttered something unpleasant in the background. Élodie, strapped into her throne seat aboard the shuttle, spoke clearly. "Princesse Élodie Noirelune, champion of the Cour de la Nuit, transmitting biometrics and oath signatures." "Paladin Salis, champion of the Third Burning Choir," came a second voice, resonant and calm. "Transmitting also." For a moment, Élodie imagined she could feel him out there, like a rising dawn edge pressing against the void. Their shuttle docked with the ring. Metal kissed metal. Magnetic clamps thudded. Baptiste stepped close, hands tight on the rail. "Last chance to change your mind, Élodie. We turn around, we dive into the black, we vanish between stars. Let the Luminari shout their doctrine into an empty sky." She smiled faintly. "And leave my people to face their wrath without me? No. You know me better." His jaw tightened. "At least take this," he said, and pressed a small metallic object into her palm. A locket. Inside, a drop of vitae shone faintly. "From the crew, from all of us. If you need a last surge." "Baptiste," she said softly, closing his fingers over it and returning it. "I will not drink my people just to win. If I consume that, then win or lose, we are what they say we are." He looked at her for a long moment, then tucked the locket back into his armor. "Die well then, princess, or better yet, don't die at all." She turned and walked into the airlock without looking back. The dual field was a circle of polished metal, 60 meters across. The light side blazed with hard, unforgiving rays from the blue star. Dust motes glowed as if on fire. Every exposed surface threw knives of glare. The dark side lay beneath the shadow plates. Not true night, but deep dimness, enough for a vampire to breathe. Élodie stepped out from her gate onto the edge of that shadow. Her armor had been darkened further, matte and swallow black. Her saber rested at her hip. She carried no shield. On the far side, a second gate hissed open. Paladin Salis emerged in a spill of radiance. He was taller than she had expected, nearly a head above her, but not monstrous. His armor was finely worked gold, engraved with shifting patterns of light that flowed like water. A corona of controlled flame circled his helm. "Champion of the night," he called. His voice carried without amplification. The arena was wired to deliver spectacle. "I am Salis of the Third Choir. Do you fear the light?" Élodie stepped onto the boundary line. Heat snapped at her face, challenging her skin. The shield field between light and shadow hummed. "I fear many things," she said, "but not you." Gasps rippled through the distant galleries where dignitaries from both sides watched behind holoscreens. Cameras orbited the arena like silver insects. An efficient voice boomed. "By terms of the accord, this duel shall proceed until one champion is unable to continue or yields. No external interference. No ranged weapons beyond personal emitters. So witnessed by the fleets of the Concordat and the Cour de la Nuit. A pause. Begin. Salis moved first. He did not charge blindly as Élodie had half hoped. He advanced with measured steps, each one leaving a faint scorch on the metal. His sword hummed, a blade of contained daytime brighter than anything Élodie had seen. She did not retreat into deeper shadow. Instead, she stepped forward, letting the edge of his light bite into her shade. Her skin prickled, ancient instincts screaming. "I have seen your kind before," Salis said, circling. "Leeches on worlds, animals snarling at dawn. You are an elegant variant, that is all." "Careful," she said. "Flattery may make me sentimental." He struck. The first exchange was blindingly fast. Light met steel. Her saber flicked aside his thrust, the impact jarring her arm down to the bone. Sparks of superheated particles skittered. He pressed, sweeping his blade in an arc that should have bisected her. Élodie slid backward, feet barely skimming the floor, using the shield field's hum as a guide. Where light thinned, she moved faster. Where it thickened, she leaned into shadow. "Your tricks will fail," Salis said. "There is no corner the light does not reach, given time." "Then I will not give it time," she murmured. He attacked again. 3 strikes in a rising pattern, overhead, waist, knee. She blocked the first, dodged the second, and let the third graze the edge of her armor. Heat seared her leg. She smelled her own flesh burn. She hissed, but did not retreat. Instead, she stepped in. Her saber licked out, aiming not for his heart, but for the joint along his left wrist. The blade met an invisible barrier of hard light inches before its mark. Salis twisted, confidence radiating. "Did you think we would leave our servants vulnerable to your little stabs?" "Of course not," she said. "But thank you for showing me where the shield is." He swung, annoyed. She dropped, rolling under his blade, feeling the heat carve the air overhead. As she moved, she counted. 1, 2, 3. Salis pivoted, sweeping his sword in a wide backhand meant to catch her as she rolled. She arrested her movement for a fraction of a second, letting the blade shriek past her nose instead of through it. The crowd saw a blur. She saw patterns. He was faster, stronger. But she had done something he had not. Died to him 34 times. She knew the song. The duel went on. Salis drove her steadily toward the dark, not pressing too far into the shadow zone. He favored the light, bathing himself in it. Every time she tried to lure him deeper under the plates, he retreated, forcing her to come to him. Blood ran down Élodie's arm from a cut on her shoulder where the light had breached her guard. Her breathing quickened. Every second in the half-light scorched her nerves. From the observation deck aboard the Reine Rouge, Lucien watched in stony silence. "She is tiring," Sébastien said through clenched teeth. "He toys with her." "Watch her feet," Lucien murmured, not his blade. Down in the arena, Élodie took another hit, this time to her ribs. Her armor warped, fusing to singed flesh. Salis stepped back, raising his sword in a salute. "Yield, parasite, I will make it clean." "Clean?" She laughed, breathless. "You burn worlds. There is nothing clean about you. You drain the living," he snapped, annoyed. "We burn infection. There's a difference." "Is there?" she asked softly. She straightened, despite the pain. Blood trickled from the corner of her mouth, dark against pale skin. "Tell me, Paladin, on the last world you purified, how many begged you to stop? How many children raised their little hands to the light, believing your sermons, only to vanish in your fire?" His jaw tightened. They were already lost, tainted by proximity. "Of course," she said, "it is always easier when you convince yourself they are already gone." He lunged. It was not the precise pattern she had come to expect. Rage had sharpened him, twisted his rhythm. For the first time, his steps fell out of song. Good. She staggered backward, letting him believe she retreated in panic. He pushed harder, following, soared a comet trail of white. 1 step, 2, 3. On the 4th, his foot landed on a faint seam in the arena floor. Élodie slammed her heel onto a hidden panel she had marked in her schematics. Not sabotage, just a switch. The ring's rotation shifted by a fraction of a degree. For a heartbeat, the shield field hiccuped as the control algorithms compensated. In that heartbeat, a beam of unfiltered blue starlight slashed across the arena, cutting through the Terminator line, flooding a thin strip of shadow. It struck Élodie full in the face. The world became agony. Her skin blistered. Fangs lengthened reflexively, an old instinct to rip and feed and heal. Her vision whited out, then returned in fragments. But the same glitch also sent a sliver of shadow washing over Salus. His light flickered, armor glyphs dimming for a fraction of a second as the sacred geometry faltered. She would have died for that chance in any of her 34 simulated deaths. She did not waste it now. Élodie threw herself forward into the worst of the light, screaming as it scalded her. She felt her hair ignite. Her armor fused, then liquefied in places. Salus, momentarily blinded by the unexpected shade, swung wide. Her saber slipped inside his guard and drove into the seam under his right arm, where Marielle had shown a brief vulnerability in the simulation. The shield coating there, weakened by the flicker, parted like skin. Her blade plunged deep. Light poured from the wound like liquid sun, spraying across the floor. Salus cried out, not in fear, but in something like outrage and surprise. Élodie gritted her teeth and twisted the blade. "For every world you called spoiled," she hissed in his ear, "there were children who thought you were angels." He slammed his forehead into hers. The impact cracked bone. Stars flared behind her eyes. He did not fall. Neither did she. They broke apart. Salus staggered, light leaking from his side in a ragged font. His movements lost some of their effortless grace. Each step jolted his wound. Élodie's own body was wrecked. Her face was a raw map of burns. Her right arm refused to answer fully. She swapped her saber to her left hand without hesitation. Blood, a mix of her own and the synth vitae in her veins, dripped onto the scorched metal. The officiant's voice boomed, faintly frantic. "Champions, do you request medical intervention?" "Silence," Salus snarled. Élodie spat blood. "We are not finished." They circled again. In the stands, dignitaries watched in horrified fascination. On the Luminari side, Ariane's glow had dimmed. "He should have slain her by now," the voice murmured. "This is improbable." On the vampire side, Duke Armand leaned forward, eyes burning with something like hunger and resentment. "She bleeds," he muttered. "She crawls through fire. Perhaps she is a Noirecour after all." Lucien's grip on the rail tightened. "She is more than that," he said softly. "She is what comes after monsters." Salus charged. Not with the confident stride of the opening salvos, but with the desperate drive of someone whose doctrine did not allow retreat. Élodie let him. At the last moment, she stepped slightly to the side and down, lowering her center of gravity. His sword passed over her, meeting empty air. She dragged her saber across his wounded flank as he went by. Light exploded again, spraying across her armor, eating into it. She screamed, but did not let go of the hilt. When he turned, he was on one knee. They faced each other, both swaying, both ravaged. "We cannot lose," Salus said. Gold flame licked along his blade. "But the creed cannot. If the infection lives, it spreads." "Maybe your creed is the infection," Élodie whispered. He raised his sword for a final strike. She sheathed her saber. Confusion flickered across his luminous face. "What are you doing?" "Showing you we are not what you think," she said. She lifted empty hands. "If you believe I am a parasite, then kill me unarmed," she said, voice carrying by will alone. "Make your purge. Show the fleets that your light never hesitates, never questions, never shows mercy. Prove to everyone watching that we were fools to think the Concordat is anything but fire." Silence fell with a palpable weight. Even the cameras seemed to hold their breath. Salus trembled. His blade hovered above his shoulder, ready to fall. The wound at his side pulsed, light spilling like blood. "You taunt me," he said through clenched teeth, trying to twist doctrine. "I am telling you the truth," Élodie said. "I am burned broken. You could end me with one swing, and with me, my people, you win." She took another step toward him out of the last scrap of shade. Her bare hands smoked in the naked blue light. "I am a monster, aren't I?" she asked softly. "This is what your creed says. That even now, charred and unarmed, I'm too dangerous to live. That there is no room in your perfect light for something like me to change." He stared at her. Slowly, his sword began to lower. Ariane half rose from his seat, light flaring. "Paladin, remember your vow. Burn the infection." Salus's hand trembled. He looked past Élodie, to the vampire fleets in the distance, to his own armada, to the millions watching. And for the first time in a long service of unquestioned obedience, he hesitated. "What if we are wrong?" he whispered. The words were so soft only Élodie could hear them. "What if your kind truly have changed? What if my hand has burned children who might have grown into something else? Then you have a chance," she whispered back. "Right now, to end a war without ending us." He closed his eyes. The sword went dark. He let it fall. It clanged on the metal, a dying sun. The officiant's voice cracked with shock. "Paladin Salus, do you yield?" The Light Knight bowed his head. "I yield," he said. The arena erupted. Some screamed in rage. Others cried out in relief. On the vampire side, a wild cheer tore loose. On the Luminari side, outrage flared, a corona of disbelief. Élodie wobbled. Her knees gave way. Salus lunged forward, not with his sword but with his hands, catching her before she hit the ground. Up close, he smelled of ozone and incense. "You manipulated me," he murmured. "Yes," she breathed. "And you let yourself be manipulated because, under all that doctrine, there is still someone who does not want to be a butcher." He snorted, a flicker of something almost like humor. "Monster." "Fanatic," she replied. They held each other upright as medics rushed in. Élodie woke in the med vault of Château. The ceiling above her was a dome of stained bone and dark glass. Tubes pumped synth vitae into her veins, repairing roasted flesh and cracked bone. She felt like she had been chewed by a star and spat into a grave. "Welcome back," said a familiar voice. She shifted her eyes. Lucien sat beside her on a low stone bench. He looked exhausted and proud and furious all at once. "How long?" she croaked. 3 days, he said. "You slept, you screamed, you threatened to dismember the healers if they touched your saber." "Good," she muttered. "They deserve it." He chuckled, then sobered. "You won." She stared at him. "Salus yielded," he continued. "Before all their admirals, before Arion. The Accord recorded it. The Luminari Concordat is fracturing. Some call him traitor. Others call him saint. They argue in their temples of light as we speak. And us," she whispered. "The war is over," Lucien said. "Their fleets have pulled back to the boundary. They are not inviting us to their suns, but they are not burning our worlds either." He reached into his cloak and pulled out a small object. Élodie's saber. He laid it across her lap. "A few old fools here wanted to claim victory and launch a counterpurge," he said. "Punish them while they are divided." I told them no. "Armand," she guessed. "Armand most loudly," Lucien said. "What did you do?" she asked. He smiled, and it was small and terrible. "I ordered the court to convene," he said. "Then I had Duke Armand brought in chains. I read out his violations of the pact, his secret hunts, his little trophies. I told the nobles that this war had ended because our champion had shown mercy, had used ruthlessness to save, not to gorge. Then I asked them what we should do with a duke who wanted the old ways back." Élodie closed her eyes. "They bayed for his blood." "They did," Lucien said. "Some out of fear, some out of genuine desire to keep what we've built. I gave the sentence to you in absentia." Her eyes snapped open. "To me?" He nodded. "I told them that, as future queen, you would decide Armand's fate." She stared. "I am not." "You are héritière de voile," he said firmly. "When you stood in that arena and let yourself burn rather than prove them right, you earned it. When you put down your blade rather than take his head while he faltered, you showed me you can kill without becoming what they call you." He leaned closer, eyes searching hers. "So, Élodie Noirelune, Armand de Valcroix sits in a cell below the tower. He has murdered in secret to feed his hunger. He has schemed to break the pact. He would gladly have seen you fall so he could drink in the chaos. What is his sentence?" The med vault hummed softly. Fluids dripped. Somewhere, a fledgling cried out in a nightmare. Élodie closed her eyes. Old instincts whispered, "Drain him, make an example. Let the nobles see what happens when someone breaks the pact." Salus's words echoed in her memory. "We burn infection. There is a difference. There was always one more atrocity you could commit in the name of righteousness." "Strip his titles," she said slowly. "Burn his sigils. Destroy his house. Give his estates to those he hunted. Then lock him in the deepest vault beneath Malval. Feed him only enough to keep him conscious. Let him listen to the lives he cannot touch." Lucien raised an eyebrow. "Merciful. Cruel," she said. "But not a feast. Let him live long enough to understand the difference between hunger and choice." Lucien sat back, studying her. "Ruthless," he said, "and righteous, as promised." He rose. "One more thing," he said, pausing at the door. "The Luminari envoy wishes to meet you. Salus among them." She snorted. "They're coming to the Dead Star? Isn't that against one of their doctrines?" "Perhaps doctrine burns more easily than we thought," Lucien said. "Rest. Heal. Then be prepared to receive guests from the sun." The council chamber was lit by a single, artificially muted star globe. Élodie stood at the far end, scarred but whole, her armor repaired. Faint lines of burned flesh remained along her cheek and jaw, like delicate black lace. She had refused to let the healers erase them. Let the galaxy see what the light had done and what she had chosen not to do with it. The doors opened. Arion entered first, diminished. The voice of radiance glowed less brightly than before. The light around it quivered, as if uncertain what shape to hold. Behind it came Salus. Out of his armor, he looked almost ordinary. His body was still outlined in faint luminosity, but he wore simple robes, not golden plate. The wound under his arm was bandaged with bands of solid light. Lucien sat on his throne at the head of the chamber. The courtiers flanked him on either side, whispering, "Welcome to the Dead Star," he said. "I trust your journey was illuminating." Arion's radiance dimmed another notch at the wordplay. "We come as emissaries," it said tightly, "not conquerors. The Concordat debates how best to interpret the Paladin's unprecedented decision." "Some want my head," Salus said calmly. "Others want my hand, to ask why I did it. A few wish to do both." A flicker of laughter passed through the vampires. Élodie stepped down from her place at Lucien's side. "You yielded," she said, "but you did not break." "No," Salus replied. "You offered me a mirror. I did not like what I saw." Arion turned its faceless glow toward Élodie. "You manipulated him into betraying doctrine," it said. "Your mercy is strategic, calculated, predatory." "Yes," she said, and that is supposed to reassure us?" "It is supposed to tell you the truth," she replied. "We are predators. We drink blood. We live on the edge of hunger. But we are also people with laws and choices. Our predators hunt according to rules now. Your creed would erase us for what we were, not what we are." Salus inclined his head. "When I looked into your eyes at the end, I saw someone who could have killed me and did not. That is not what we have taught our children about you." Arion's light flickered. "Doctrine does not change because one paladin had a moment of doubt." "Doctrine always changes that way," Élodie said. "One person sees something the creed never accounted for. Then they either shut their eyes or they start rewriting." Lucien rose. "The Cour de la Nuit will sign a non-aggression pact with the Concordat," he said. "We will not expand beyond our established systems without negotiation. We will share data on the predators of the void, those things that would eat both blood and light if we let them. In return, you stop burning our worlds. Stop preaching that we must be scoured from existence. Preach instead that we must be watched, held to our pact, judged by our actions, not your fear." Arion shimmered with internal conflict. "And if some of your kind break your pact?" it asked. Élodie smiled without warmth. "Then we will hunt them. And if we fail, you may bring their names to us and watch what we do with them." Salus looked between them. Slowly, his light steadied. "I will carry this offer to the High Choir," he said. "Some will call it compromise with evil. Others will call it evolution. I cannot promise they will agree." "You never can," Élodie said. "That's what makes choice interesting." He considered her. "You are still a monster," he said at last. There was no heat in it. "And you still burn worlds," she replied. They both smiled faintly. "Perhaps," he added, "we can build a universe where monsters sign treaties and pyres grow cold." "Perhaps," she echoed. That night, Élodie stood alone on the highest balcony of Château des Bains. The dead star's dark halo flickered below, a black wound with a red rind. Beyond it, the galaxy stretched, a whirl of blues and golds and shadows. Somewhere out there, Luminari temples argued over her name. Behind her, the castle whispered, footsteps of servants, murmurs of nobles, the distant wail of a fledgling waking from a blood dream. Baptiste joined her, carrying 2 cups of synth vitae. He offered one. She took it. "To surviving," he said. "To changing," she replied. They drank in silence. "Do you ever think," Baptiste said eventually, "about hunting again? The old way? No pact, just taking what we want from whoever we choose." Élodie looked at the dark star. "Every day," she said. "Hunger doesn't vanish because you put a law on it. But I also think of children on colony worlds who have never seen a vampire except on a screen, who live their lives without fearing the dark because we chose to be something they could live with." She turned to face him. "We are what we feed," she said. "On fear or on restraint, on the weak or on our own instincts. I have drunk enough from death. I want to see if I can live on discipline instead." Baptiste snorted. You make righteousness sound exhausting. It is, she said, but so is war. She looked back out at the stars, at the distant smear of golden light that was Luminari space. Salis called me a monster, she said. He wasn't entirely wrong. But monsters can make choices. That is what the Luminari never understood. That is what we must not forget. Baptiste leaned on the railing beside her. So what now, princess? He asked. We have peace, for a while. The court whispers of your coronation. The galaxy watches to see if the Blood Princess and the Paladin of Light will keep their promises. Now? Élodie said, feeling the weight of a future settle on her shoulders like a new cloak. Now we build something that proves the duel was not a spectacle, but a beginning. She smiled, sharp and tired and real. And we make sure that the next creed, whether sung under stars or whispered in crypts, says this: strength without mercy is just hunger. Light without doubt is just fire. The dead star pulsed. In the distance, a faint new signal flickered between vampire space and Luminari territory. A shared beacon, coated in both blood runes and light glyphs. A bridge. Princesse Élodie Noirelune, héritière du voile, watched it and let herself, just for a moment, feel something she had spent centuries believing vampires had no right to: hope.